everyone, welcome to Adventures in TV Land. For today's adventure, I've come to the National Building Arts Center in Sauget, Illinois. Now, the National Building Arts Center is probably something many of you out there have not heard of. It is a museum and a library, an architectural resource center that started out originally as a private collection from a man named Giles, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. But he basically was self-taught. He had nothing beyond a high school education, but he came back and he was very interested in architecture and preserving history, the building arts. He taught himself a lot of things he did not know of how to do things, and he preserved a lot of buildings and pieces of buildings in the St. Louis area. His started out as a private collection, and it's just kind of grown from there. The museum actually really it's in its initial stages. It's just started because this was originally more or less a private collection of trying to preserve the architecture and the history, the stories that those pieces of architecture and those buildings and those monuments and artifacts could tell. And as I said, it's kind of in the early stages. They offer tours here on the second Saturday of every month. So we're going to take a tour and we're going to go check this place out. Now, the National Building Arts Center is located right across the river in Illinois, directly from the St. Louis Arch almost. Here's a view of the campus from the front area. This is the office building here. In the back of this building also is the library, which will be shown on the tour later on. Now, on the side of the building here, there are these statues here. I was told during the tour these three statues were actually taken from the old Deaconess Hospital in St. Louis. They used to, I guess, stand and they were part of the building there. And now, here they reside here. Now, this building here is what they are hoping to eventually turn into the visitor center for the museum. As you can see here, this is I'm peeking through the windows here on the front. There's work being done on the inside there. It's not ready. But and here is the back side through the doors. This space, like I said, they want to turn it into the welcome center, as well as maybe like a gift shop and maybe perhaps cafe. And here's a view peeking through the windows there in the back side. This campus is massive, but before we continue our tour, let's hear a word about the founding from our guide, current executive director, Michael Allen.
The idea of a museum eventually, and certainly there's these precedents where the historians who worked on the Gateway Arch clearance, Charles Peterson and John Aubrey Bryan, had come up with a plan for a museum of the salvage that was supposed to be done on the riverfront. What's left of that is in this little gallery in the old courthouse. A lot was saved, especially cast iron storefronts. We've got a lot here. Most of the metal was used as scrap for the war effort, melted down in 1943 or so, the warehouse demolished. So that idea never went anywhere, but it did kind of implant this notion that St. Louis had a special story to tell about architecture. And so Larry's project started as a for-profit business. He came back disillusioned, a Vietnam veteran, almost died in a troop carrier crash, ended up in the Soulard neighborhood where people were buying houses, vacant houses for $1 in the late 60s and early 70s. He ended up, I think by his own account, 25 buildings that he owned and flipped to different friends. He had a lot of mechanical skills that he had developed with trade high school. So you hear a lot about trades education today. Even in Congress now, there's been hearings on the need for more trade education. Larry's only education in life was this trades high school education. And what he did was he started a museum. After decades of salvaging and trying to resell, Larry ended up with a huge inventory of items that, nobody would ever want to buy, sadly, because the waste streams and the wasting of the built environment that he was against continued and still continues. With some changes in the historic preservation movement's success, but there's still material sadly coming into this collection from St. Louis and all over the country. But B, there are things he decided maybe should never have a monetary value, should always be preserved and conserved for their value to human knowledge. And so in 1983, Larry exhibited the old First Street Forum in Lafayette's Landing and made its first public call for an architecture museum in St. Louis. I think he envisioned over the years he was advocating for this, that he'd make the call and lots of wealthy donors would fund the museum. Not that he would have to self-fund the museum out of his modest finances, but that's ultimately what he decided to do in the early 2000s. He created the St. Louis Building Arts Foundation, which became the National Building Arts Center, and gifted his collection to that nonprofit. After some idea of a major new museum building, again, where's the money? It's not coming. He bought the foundry here himself for $50,000, paid off the back taxes, and away he went, renovating this historic steel foundry campus into the National Building Arts Center.
Now this structure here is going to be the pedestal for the miniature Statue of Liberty that is going to be transported to the site later here in 2023, about May or June. Here is a diagram of kind of the blueprints of the pedestal and everything. It is going to be kind of like the centerpiece, the front piece to bring people here and draw them in. It is a massive undertaking, but it is going to take place later this year. As I walked around and explored the grounds, took part in the tour and just kind of wandered around, because they did afterwards. They let you wander around and search things out and take pictures and video. I felt like I was in Raiders of the Lost Ark at the end of the movie, when the Ark of the Covenant has been recovered and it's been brought back, it's been salvaged. But then in the last scene in the movie, you see it's been crated up and it's taken to this giant, massive warehouse. And there it is stored, and no one knows exactly where it's cataloged. But to find it would be very difficult to find. This facility, this museum, is so massive, so large. There are crates upon crates of items, architectural items and wonders. They have the pieces of entire buildings, like everything they could replicate, rebuild several buildings completely over again, other than, like the glass and the screws and things like that. But all the architectural elements of several buildings are here on this campus. And from my understanding is they are hoping to one day rebuild some of these structures, so that they are there and people can come see them and see them in their full glory. But the undertaking, this is a massive facility, I use that word a lot. It's ginormous, and everything that has been preserved here, it's a preservation of American history. And it's just a big undertaking for a staff of only 1.5 people and with a bunch of volunteers. But they are making progress. They are pushing forward, even though their founder passed away a couple years ago. And it will be exciting to see what becomes of the National Building Arts Center in the future. All right, I mentioned earlier about the library, and here is the library here at the National Building Arts Center. It is located in what was the former shower room here at the foundry, and it's been completely renovated and is now a very impressive and large facility holding all kinds of architectural literature and blueprints and plans and a very impressive architectural library that goes back over 100 years in some cases. Something I found very interesting I learned here. These tiles here, for instance, terracotta tiles, they were mass produced. However, when you flip them over and you looked on top here on the other side, you can see the fingerprints of whoever it was that placed that tile and pressed it into place. It's a little bit of personal history, a connection to humanity. Now another piece that they have here is this tower. Can't remember exactly how tall they said the tower is, but this tower once stood at the top of a bank
It was the State Bank. It was on a corner in a building in St. Louis, and the bank was actually on the very top floor of the building, and their slogan was "Banking in the Sky." In order to get there, you actually you drove up the ramp, and you got to the top floor following the car ramp there, and you did the drive-thrus and stuff were in the windows there at the top. You did your banking in your car on the top floor, and you went around the building and drove back down. So you were actually banking in the sky. This piece, there's a lot of neon, a lot of working parts on there. Our tour guide, he had mentioned this is another item that they are hoping in the future they wish to have restored. Now on the top of the tower where the sign was, there's also this weather ball, and it would light up with different colors of the weather conditions, you know, if it was snowing, if it was rainy, the wind conditions, things like that. Well, whenever they get this fixed, it'll be quite a sight to see again. And it'll be interesting to see there on top of one of the buildings here at the National Building Arts Center. Now this item here that is covered up in the tarp, I'm kind of curious what is under it. I think that underneath there is the Native American that was on Cherokee Street. The National Building Arts Center was given that statue, but I did not see it anywhere on the tour. I found this brick interesting. It is a brick made of a bricklayer making bricks. Do not spit on the sidewalk. It's just good advice in general. And now this item, this piece, it is an old elevator. You can look inside there. Looks almost like a bird cage, like those old elevators and the old skyscrapers did. You see them every once in a while in movies, but there's not too many of those around no matter where you go, and here is one in all of its glory.
That was the National Building Arts Center. I was very impressed. It is a huge, a massive, a ginormous collection of a huge variety. They have the pieces, other than, you know, timber and things like that, of many buildings. Could be basically totally rebuilt from the materials they have there. And actually, I think from what the executive director, from the tour guide, what he said, long term being it could be 20 years down the road, I don't know, but some of those buildings, they would love to rebuild those buildings because they have all the parts there. Larry Giles, he went in, he was able to save entire buildings, entire storefronts, and so other than the glass and the lumber and things like that, they could be rebuilt. This could be someday, this could be like a massive architectural village at this old industrial site. So yeah, it was very interesting. I learned a lot of things that I did not know before. And if you are going to be in the St. Louis area, I would highly recommend you check this place out. They're going to have some lectures coming up. They have a summer lecture series. They're going to be having an exhibit later on this year at the Pulitzer Center. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Well, this has been another adventure in TV land. If you liked this video, hit that like button. If you disliked, hit the dislike button. Subscribe to my channel for further content and ring that bell for email notifications. And if there's someplace that you would like to see me visit, or you have a suggestion about some future video you would like to see me do, leave a comment in the comments section. And if you've enjoyed this adventure or any of the adventures in TV land, you can help support this channel by going to either Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon, or even here on YouTube, and just become a member. Thank you for watching. Until next time, that's a wrap.